Yeah, sorry,
Oh,
mate.
now I've got to be careful what I say.
Yeah. We got on out of the way. Fix your hair. Smile. Okay, start again.
Yeah, so heading up to Cairns for the Great Barrier Reef Ocean Challenge. And yeah, there's a few crew coming up, which will be cool. Obviously, I'm going to try to sup foil it.
Yep.
Conditions aren't always optimum because you're inside the reef. You need pretty strong wind. But there's big foils now. It's doable. So I'm going to give it a crack.
We'll definitely we'll talk about that foiling adventure that you had. But I'm guessing Cairns is somewhere where you want to stay on foil. You've got a few things in the water up there that make you want to stay high, I guess.
Yes, stingers and crocs.
You're ticking all the boxes up there. But well, I'm not sure if everybody knows your background, so we'll do a quick bio. I know there's a lot of YouTube and you've got your own podcasts, and I've been listening to those, and you've been interviewed quite a lot of times. So I'll do a quick synopsis. Surfer, kiter, sup surfer, sup racer, moving from like local events all the way up to world champ multiple times, sup surfer.
I think just once. Yeah.
Just once. We'll say multiple.
Yeah.
No, everyone.
Let's say multiple.
Yeah, let's go with that. And I guess world champ from the Molokai race, which was, I mean, that's huge really for distance and in terms of endurance races that are out there.
Yeah, Molokai to Oahu was the goal for me as a surfer. Getting into the sup racing, it's as good as it's as fun as a race can be. I guess it's a downwind race, so you're trying to milk the most out of the white caps. It's almost a wind sport, but without a sail. Yeah. So that's So it's like poor man surfing.
Yeah. Well, I think since COVID hit, it's sort of given you 3 years to get excited about it again, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, defending champ.
That's it. Well, I guess that's a big question for you. Do you do it on the sup, or are you going to jump on the foil and give Kaya a run for his money?
Oh, I want to foil it. I think when Kai won on the sup, the next year he did it on a foil. And for me, especially with everything that's going on during COVID, I feel like it's kind of like, move on to the next. It was actually, it'll be more competitive in the foiling than it will be in the sup, I think.
Yeah.
So like there'll be more people who are potential podium getters, whereas in the sup, it's like usually comes down to 2 or 3 people who are, realistically going to be on the top podium and 5 for the minor places. But for the foil, it literally could be anyone, which is pretty exciting.
That is exciting. And I guess technically, if you never sup race again, you go out undefeated. So that's always something to consider. So your accolades go on. We have like a wing sort of dinging focus in Melbourne. So a very windsurf, wind sports orientated city being on the bay. So I guess what everyone really, really wants to know is when you learnt winging, how many walk of shames did you do? And you're not allowed to say none.
Oh, I lost count. I
really?
learnt on the 4-meter Nash wing surfer, the original one. Super light and super good if it's really gusty. But I was learning in like like when I say gusty was in like big gusts, but I was learning in wholly 5 to 15 knots. And I think the first few times, when I first tried, JB from Nash, like, come on, I'll give you a go. And I was a bit resistant to the wing foil because I was already downwind foiling, and I was like, well, what's this going to be good for? And the westerlies were kind of in Sydney. The westerlies are useless for ocean runs, and so I thought, okay, it's a good opportunity to learn to wing. And I tried at Palm Beach, and the tide was low, so I had to walk out. Drag my foil, dodging stingrays and all sorts of cold, and the cold water, and in the freezing westerlies. And I just never walked out far enough or paddled out far enough, so I kept getting washed up on the beach. So while there are no walk of shames, there were lots of paddle of shames out to sea.
Definitely.
And I don't think I even got up on foil that first time. It was just, I think the wind died as soon as I hit the water, and my skills weren't there. The next couple days there was a northeasterly, and JB said, come up to Palmy again, we'll give it another crack. And the first time I got on foil on the wing was actually on my toe side, which people always are like, what? But it only speaks for my lack of winging skills. and and my ability to read bumps, because it was in a northeasterly in Sydney. It's I guess my natural stance on the way out to sea, but my goofy stance on the way in.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how to go goofy and wing, not goofy and foil anyway. So I, coming from a surf foiling background, I was toe side and I was trying to milk these little bumps. And first time I got up was downwind kind of style with the wing, and it didn't last long, but I got up and got a bit of a glide.
I'm kind of picturing you using the wing like a paddle, like a giant scoop, just
kind of, yeah.
Up, just force it to happen. I think that makes everybody feel better about their wing journeys, knowing that James struggled, did a walk of chain, and swore a fair bit, I'd imagine, which was...
I still swear at the wing.
Yeah, good. Okay, good.
We all do, don't we?
I think you've summarised my foiling journey. I think what is beneficial as a proficient SUP surfer is that you use really small boards, and that standing and stabilising is definitely beneficial to learn winging, because you've got that. A lot of the background people that don't windsurf are not standing on boards at slow speeds, which is generally when you're sloshing winging, that's where you're at. So that's, I've found that was very helpful coming from a SUP background. And then the SUP foiling was just a natural progression, apart from, learning actual foiling itself, which was, I learnt before winging. But I think the winging has been exceptional in Melbourne, because we live in a bay, and anything over 15, 16 knots, we're out there riding bumps, and short fetch waves, low period is actually really fun for a foil, because it's a little more forgiving. Perfect. And just you can gain some confidence and do long runs or short runs. And we've got a wide variety in Melbourne with lots of people coming into the sport, never done a wind sports before, so their journey is a challenging one. But we've also got a lot of windsurfers that progressing to like 360s and fluckers, and somebody here is going to knock out a backflip this week, maybe. I don't know. No, maybe. But yeah, so I guess we've probably skipped a little bit there, but your foiling journey, from listening to you chat on a number of podcasts, started way back 2016, maybe, like seeing Kai do his first sort of paddle on the 12.6 javelin with the foil all the way to the back. And
yeah, so I was over there for Olokai over in Maui it's a stand-up paddle race and an outrigger canoe race, and I was over there paddling an unlimited, and Kai was paddling a 14-footer that year for the race, and he didn't have a very good result. I think Bantam Road Digger beat him, and he was all shocked that Kai didn't win Olokai on the 14-footer, the stock division. Literally that afternoon, he released the SUP foil downwind thing, and no one remembered Kai not winning, and everyone just remembered Kai downwinding. So it was kind of like he just one-upped everyone. Yeah. And yeah, about 6 months later, so that race was in April, and then I got my first foil in October from Alex Seguera, who sort of lent me a foil, and then after chatting to the Spencer boys, Jeffrey and Finn, I was hanging with them a bit, and they sort of were trying to, they weren't coaching me, they were just saying, come on, we'll go out, and like laughing at me basically.
Yeah. I think that's the thing with foiling, is when you're learning and floundering in the water, everyone else is putting distance on you very rapidly, and their advice as they fall past you usually sounds like, hey man, just and you don't really know what they're saying. So I think everyone who first started foiling, their learning journey is probably difficult, because we just had to go out and figure it out in all the wrong conditions with the wrong gear, because that's all we had, and it just had to make it work, and it sort of tested how persistent you were to make it. Whereas now, I guess we're like third or fourth iteration or evolution of foils. Things are a little easier. Foils, a bit more stability. Exactly. Let's say that. Yeah.
Yeah. When I learned, learning behind a boat wasn't even considered. Like, they didn't even think of tumbling behind the boat to learn. It was go out in the surf. A SUP's a little bit easier because you're already standing, and that was it.
That's about it, isn't it? And I think, and then from there, that sort of foil bug, that feeling of efficiency when you first taste it is super addictive, and that's just kicked off from you from there. That just led to other disciplines and more and more challenges for the foil.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just there's so many ways to foil, like wing foil, windsurf foil, kite foil, surf foil, SUP foil, downwind foil.
Yeah.
Like, and even within winging, there's freestyle, there's like speed racing, there's downwind, there's the list is endless, and it's kind of cool to see the sport evolve the way it has, because it kind of started as this weird, 10-6 downwind sort of, or Laird Hamilton in the moon boots, and look at us now. Like it's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, we're sort of, I don't think anyone needed a third or fourth sport in terms of their budget or room in their car. Like my car's so full of stuff that it's a bit questionable how much money is in there. But I prone, sup, foil, wing, and then I haven't done any wake foiling, but just that ability to get out on the water so much, I think that's what I'm enjoying the most, to the point where when there's no wind and no swell, I'm kind of grateful that I can sit at home and just recoup, because all those little intrinsic foiling muscles just get tired because you just want to get out and just do more and more of it. So I think we've all got fitter and just by getting on the water and foiling around. So that's been great to keep us in shape, I think. But back to your foiling journey. So from sup to downwind to wing, is that sort of the timeline, or did you just try everything at once? Or
I did sup for like the first few months, just because I only had a sup foil board, and then I got a prone foil board, and I learned that. So October was when I got my first foil, and I was supping until basically just like Christmas, and then Christmas I was learning to prone until like the new year, and then I don't know exactly when it is, but then I learned to downwind foil sort of soon after that, when the original Maliko from Go Foil came out, the skinny, the higher aspect blue one with flatter one, which was in hindsight way ahead of its time. They actually superseded it and did the downturn thing again.
I think 3 years in, I think we have one in the ceiling as memorabilia. Like
seriously.
Like foils are evolving so quickly.
So fast.
But it worked great. Good early lift, lots of glide. It was a little bit hard to. It was like hanging on to a bucking bronco.
Learning to prone foil I got worked so many times.
Yeah. You very soon realise you need very small waves to learn because of the wave energy and the size of the foil. So
and that's the thing. Like I chat to Adrian from Axis a lot, and he talks about like good foils to learn. And he does a lot of winging, and he talks about the big foils being really good to learn because they have that really early lift. And I say, you don't want to learn to surf on those foils. Like,
no, you don't.
He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, mate, if you the impact of a wave is so huge that if you're learning on a foil that's big, you're going to get smoked. That's what I did. Learning to foil on a really small foil and like making every takeoff and maybe not even getting on foil is the best thing to do. And that's like something I teach in Sydney. Like, almost don't even put a foil on for the first session. Just paddle out with a mast and a tail wing, and just learn to get to your feet and just ride the wave into shore. After you do 5 or 6 of those, then put a foil on, and a small one.
That's the way to do it. But with surfers mentality, we're like, it's not 3 foot. I'll wait till it's 4 foot to learn foiling, and then you paddle out, try and get one wave, and it just doesn't end well.
So many good surfers have hurt themselves because of exactly that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we've got a lot of wingers in Melbourne, and then like a month or 3 weeks ago, we had a period of no wind. So Melbourne gets quite a bit of wind, sort of 15 up to 30 knots with storms. And then we had two weeks of no wind. And I think a few people came down my coast. I'm about an hour away, and starting to talk about sup foiling and prone foiling as part of their foiling journey. So it's definitely great that within your wing foil setup, depending on where you're at, that transfers over to possible sup or prone foiling. So it's not like you need more and more gear. You can take that gear and learn on it in small waves. So
absolutely, that's one of the things I do a lot is like, if I teach people who haven't surfed a lot or just haven't ever foiled before, I teach them on my small wingboard, because I guess for me in Sydney, my small wingboard's like 50 litres, my big wingboard's like 75 litres, and depending on the size of the human, like if they're heavier, I'll put them on the 75 litre board. It's kind of like paddling in on a longboard, so you can catch even smaller waves, and it's still a short board, and the width doesn't really matter because you're catching a wave. So it's the wing stuff is great. Are great boards to learn on because they got that extra volume basically.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people have wingboards that work quite well as sups, but maybe a touch small. But if you can get hold of a bigger wingboard, that's a great way to do it. And you can prone paddle them too. So well, I guess that leads into, you've been foiling for how many years do you think now? Is it sort of?
I guess it's coming up to 6 in October.
6.
Yeah.
So you're a seasoned veteran. What? How old are you now? In the foiling discipline, you're a seasoned veteran.
Yeah,
Well,
I guess so.
Well, it's good because you've got your coach Casey, which is, if anyone doesn't know, James does online tuition, which sounds a bit remote, but you can send videos who analyzes it. We have a wing foil chat in Melbourne, and we all just talk. It's the full foil brain, and everyone has their own opinion. But James's opinion is probably worth a lot more than most of our opinions, to be honest. So I've signed up a couple of months ago, and just I should probably post some footage for you to
I haven't gone through any of yours yet.
I really should.
You're learning from everyone else's footage.
I'm just sitting back watching everyone else and learning. But I guess his foil knowledge and his courses and modules that he have are more comprehensive than I would have thought you could have done. But you must have spent some time putting these videos and text together. It is from the most basic of instruction on the beach with the wing, how we all should really learn, all the way to your first time on the water, to sort of advanced wave riding, wave energy. You say a few words about your course, James, because it's comprehensive, isn't it? It must have taken some time.
Yeah, that's how I spent my COVID lockdown.
Oh, yeah, really? Just casual 2 years, yeah.
yeah. And then a couple, months of quarantine too, just for, going to the shops and being a close contact or whatever it is. It's like, okay, I got 2 weeks of working on the modules, the courses. If you let me share the screen, I can sort of show people what it looks like as well. But basically the way my online thing works is I've got all my courses and you can kind of just go through that. But what I found is actually more useful is uploading videos, asking questions in like a private Facebook group. And then every Tuesday, which is why I was a bit later today, every Tuesday I do what I call Talkback Tuesday. It's basically just a little podcast, but members ask the questions and post videos, and I go through all the videos, break them down, draw little squiggly lines on them, and basically show them what they're looking for, what they've got to do with their hands, what they've got to do with their feet, pumping technique, wave riding with the wing, downwind paddling, everything and anything foiling basically is dock starts. We went through this afternoon as well. So
you need a whole new module for that, mate. You're gonna have to go and do it.
I really do. Yeah.
So I've joined up, and James does comprehensive analysis of your foiling technique, your stance, your winging, and you're really learning a lot in a short amount of time. Bar somebody yelling at you at the water while you're trying to learn, which is a hard way to learn.
I guess the idea is, there's nothing better than going out in the water and putting the time in, but I guess I'm trying to teach a bit of the theory and what the ideas behind it is, so you can sort of, before you go to your in-person lesson, you can, go through this, what equipment do I need? What basics can I practice on land? What basics can I do on water? Then into taxi skills, getting up on foil, toe side, switch stance, free winging, jibes, tacks, downwinding, wave riding, jumping, upwind tips. And I'm not a freestyle guy, so I'm not going to pretend that I know how to do 360s and jumps and everything. But basically it's all sort of written down. It's got videos of me talking about what it is.
Hey, that one actually has your shirt on, James. There's a lot of shirtless videos, James.
especially in the stuff that the first sort of part of the lockdown, it was summer, and I'm like, let's get my shirt off. I didn't my first one with the shirt off, and then I'm like, I got to keep it consistent.
Yeah, and you can definitely see, now that you said you were locked down, you can see the change of venues from your backyard to the beach to the
seriously. So I want to go through and update them all as we go, but I've still got the list keeps going as foiling becomes sort of more and more diverse, and the winging course I'm like 90% done, but I've just got to fill out some videos and a bit of theory. But it's that's been a project that's been a little bit more stop-start because we've had less lockdowns, less quarantines.
Well, it's also tricky too, because it's so new. You're kind of like you're using sailing terminology and applying it to winging, and people have to learn that sailing terminology as well to understand what you're saying. But the audio and visual and the written translates really well for people who are beginning. It's probably the best way to begin. And it's $50 a month, and I've got so much benefit from it. So I think it's for what you get, and you get some feedback as well from your videos. It's super cheap.
If people if people buy into the Facebook stuff and aren't too afraid to post a few videos and speak up in the Zoom calls, I think it's pretty valuable because you can literally get advice on any question. I can break down your videos, and I've seen a lot of people learn really quickly, and I'm like, man, when I learned, there was nothing. Like, imagine like the equipment, the coaching, the knowledge of conditions and all this sort of stuff. So I wish I had this when I was learning, for sure.
I think you should scale it because I think people are learning too quickly. Because I think I see that your is it Ocean Pixels? Is it Jeremy? Is it the same guy that's just got an hour up on foil in your? Yeah. Like, how long has he been foiling for?
Jeremy's actually been foiling for a while, and he signed up to learn the downwind foil. He's like an hour on foil in the surf without coming down. That's what he's done, nuts. and he's signed up for my course to learn how to downwind foil and learn the paddle technique and reading the bumps and
cut him off. Stuff. He's getting too good, too quick. Cut him off, James.
He'll be coming for the world record soon, I reckon.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you don't want to have to you don't want to have to keep increasing that because there's a certain cutoff where, like, it was 11 hours for 200 kilometers. I don't know if you all know, but James holds the world record for, I guess, the longest downwind foil assisted, but not assisted by wind or full drive or, but just paddle. Yeah, just you. Yeah. So that's, I don't know if everyone knows that, but.
Yeah, earlier in the year, I guess almost 2 months ago now, originally I wanted to foil Bass Strait, but then lockdown happened and all that, and then 18 months later I finally found a boat in Sydney, and I did basically the south coast, so Ulladulla sort of area, Bawley Point, and I foiled back to Sydney. So it was about 11 hours, 20 minutes and 213 Ks.
That's nuts.
And a long day on foil. It was hard to walk up the beach, and my calves didn't work for 2 days.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so the equivalent of like doing a double marathon if you equate it to road racing, really, something.
Yeah, time-wise. Yeah, exactly. It was conditions weren't optimal either. We had really light wind in the morning. I used the 1099 from Axis and the 325 progressive tail, standard fuse, short fuse, and the 82 centimeter mast. And basically, I would have loved to have used a smaller foil, but because there was no wind in the first 2 hours of the morning, and the days were only about 11 hours long, I pretty much started in the dark with offshore winds and finished in the sort of 20 to 25 knots backwash in Sydney. So it was a variety of conditions, and in hindsight, the 1099 was perfect, but I wish for the last 8 hours I could have swapped to the 899.
Yeah,
which is crazy to say.
Yeah, well, watching you start, that paddle up to start was huge, really. Like a lot of nervous energy, I've got to get up and get going. But that was a huge, paddle up in what looked very little wind. Was it offshore, was it?
It was like, it felt northwest and I needed southwest.
Yeah. That's not an ideal start. So, well, congratulations on finishing that. That is huge. I'm not sure if anyone is going to top that. We've got a few guys doing 60 and 70 kilometers in a session.
That's impressive. That's a marathon session. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the ability on a wing to tack up wind and do, like tack up wind and then ride swell back down. And then if you've got the legs and the energy and the time and the foil credits, you can just do it over on rinse and repeat.
Over and over.
It's amazing because I guess with downwinders, you've got to hope that somebody's willing to pick you up at the other end. And, 200 kilometer escort, that's a lot of people helping you out.
It's a lot of brownie points.
Yeah, that was a big day. So congrats on that. I did laugh in the video because I think the guy cooked you an egg and bacon roll and he just looked so happy about it. And there was there was somebody on the boat mentioned that you were vegetarian or vegan. His face was hilarious. But yeah, exactly. Yeah. I can relate to that.
He was G'ing me up all day. He's like, I got a lamb roast if you want any. And I'm like, it was hard for me to grab the radio to speak back. And I'm just like laughing. I'm like, I finally like sort of 10 hours in, I'm like, I'm vegetarian. Or he's like, yeah, I know, I've been G'ing you up all day.
That was a funny moment. I can relate to that. I've done the Molokai 5 times as support crew in the boat. And it's like, when you're in the boat, you've got to entertain yourself while you're doing the challenge. Like, you're in your own head, you got to focus, but everyone else on the boat's got to find something to do for that time. But so the 1099, like with aspect ratio, it really gives you a lot of glide to get those bumps. I was wondering, did you switch feet at any stage to just give your back leg or front leg a break just to mix it up a little?
So on my to-do list before I did this, I actually wanted to, learn to foil goofy, and I'd been practicing it, winging, sort of free winging, and it's terrifying. Basically, like having I can do it fine when I have the wing in my hand and you're kind of leaning on the wing and like sort of leaning back heel side. But when you take that wing away and you're just gliding, your feet have to be. It just feels like learning from day one all over again. And like you see guys like Matahi Jolie and Kane DeWild like sitting down and like leaning back on the thing. And I'm looking at all these guys. I'm like, that'd be really good skills to learn. When am I going to do that? And it just sort of got closer and closer and closer. I'm like, I still haven't learned it. So no, I was in natural stance pretty much the whole way. But I did start like sort of surf stance, like down the stringer. And then as I sort of progressed, my stance got more and more square, more like a stand-up. And I ended up pretty much foiling to the beach like this, like super square. And it was just a efficiency. I just found that was for the big foil. I had to get my weight further forward, having my hips forward, my shoulders forward and leaning forward. It was the most efficient way to keep the big foil in the water in the bigger conditions, but also to give my body a bit of a rest, switching the stance up.
Just to get through it. I guess you sort of play around with that center of lift and that balance point to make everything as neutral on like 50-50 on each foot. So you're not burning out either, right?
The other thing is the deck grip. I guess the Sonova deck grip is like, it's grippy and there's like little tiny ridges in it. And something I've never noticed over a 2, 3 or 4 hour downwind foil. But if you're doing it like after the 4 hour mark, standing on the, that same deck grip for that long, your feet go numb. So I can start to shift my feet, just moving the ball of my foot across this way or my heel this way, and just always like rolling my feet just to sort of keep blood in them. Otherwise they'll go on dead. So it was lots of little challenges that could have been thought about beforehand.
That is amazing, and something we're very familiar with in Melbourne is numb feet. So we can relate to you on that one. I'll throw it to the audience. Does anybody have any questions for James? Not all. Well, Derek.
Hello, Derek. You moved to Access, James. That's all. That was quite sudden, wasn't it? What was it, 2-3 weeks ago?
Yep. Did you hear that?
Yep. I've been with Access since February, I think. And maybe March, but basically Access sort of a few brands approached me. I was obviously with GoFoil, had been with GoFoil for a long time, and a few brands approached me, and I sort of was in negotiations with them. And obviously I'm trying all the gear, managed to try Lift, Armstrong. Obviously I already knew how GoFoil worked, tried some Unifoil stuff. And basically what I found with Access is that the mask to fuse setup is, from what I found, was the stiffest, and basically with the higher aspect wings, it allowed you to go even higher aspect than anything else without the flex and wobble. And I guess what I found is with certain brands, there's more flex, and with other brands, there's more stiffness. And for me, for downwinding, stiffness is what you want. And the other thing is, I fell in love with the ART 899 for downwind. The first downwind run I did, I literally did my fastest average by about 4 kilometers per hour, like after my first use. So I'm like, this thing goes all right.
That's in the keeper pile.
Yeah. So after trying all that, and also being able to Access, obviously they do a lot of R&D, and something that I guess I wanted to work on them was a surf foil wing that sort of met my needs and wants, and a downwind wing that would be able to win, a race like Molokai, which unfortunately isn't on this year, but we've already done a bunch of R&D, and pretty happy with everything so far. So it's
cool.
good.
So it kind of sounds like you might have some James Casey Access foils coming out. Is that what's happening?
Well, not necessarily James Casey ones, but they're definitely like ones that I've been heavily involved with the development in, and stuff that definitely nothing's close to releasing just yet. But we've done lots of testing, and it's positive. We're definitely moving forwards, which is cool. It's actually been interesting. It's been hard to improve the ARTs, for example, for downwind, they're just so good and efficient.
Yeah.
And I think we're up to our second or third round of sort of, prototype wings, and just starting to make a bit of headway. But it's tricky designing wings because everything's a compromise. So
Sure.
we're trying to, get it to turn well, getting it to pump well, getting it to glide well, and it's, everything.
Well,
if it glides well, probably doesn't turn well, and you've got to find that middle ground.
Yeah, I guess guys are evolving so quickly. Surfers are looking to breach wingtips as a as a style thing. So you want something that doesn't cavitate when it exits and comes back in, which is hard with high aspect wings. So that's that sort of high, upper echelon of foil design that is past my knowledge, but I know what I like to ride. But I mean, I've been riding the 899 with crazy short and a 380 flat in the surf, and that's been amazing efficiency. It turns really well with the crazy short fuse, and really enjoy pumping it around. And that stiff connection with the alloy, sure, it weighs a little more, but the stiff connection is a fantastic return on the energy you're putting into it.
Big time.
So I guess what's your favorite sort of axis setup that you run, like your go-to 899 with the 325? Or
I like the 325 progressive. And I used to use the 82 centimeter mast. I'm not sure if there's like a stiffer mast coming out. That's the first one they sent me, but it's there's a new, like within the R&D, I guess we've been trying some stiffer carbon masts, and I'm really enjoying the 82 centimeter length just for all rounds. For winging, I like to use 90, and for downwinding clean conditions, I like the 75. But the 82s, I guess I'm away now for 2 months, and I only grabbed the 82 centimeter mast, so that sort of shows you that's my go-to. And the 899 and the 325 progressive is what I'm kind of, if I just had one wing for like the rest of I guess you wouldn't say your life because foiling's changing so much, but like for the next 6 months, the 899 would pretty much tick all my boxes for downwind, for winging, for surf foiling, for, I don't know, I guess not flat water pumping, but I'm okay to leave that.
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of nice too, like having the option of having so much gear. You've got so much option. It's almost sometimes too much option. So having a setup that you can prone on, you can sup on and wing on, and it just sits in your car, and that's kind of nice too, because Axis has a wide range of front wings, tail wings, multiple sort of fuses and masts that we'll chat about later as people understand as their foiling progresses, that they can go a certain way to get a different benefit. So are you able to talk about the Axis stuff coming out? I heard there was some carbon masks that might be on.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how public. It's sort of like what carbon mask you're talking about. That everyone's riding them. A lot of the team riders, the R&D team, have got them. So I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say, but basically they're just stiffer. They're the stiffest mask I've used. And obviously, with extra stiffness comes a little bit extra weight, but I'm using that mast every time because it's using the higher aspect wings, having that like the connection to the wing is night and day from anything else I've used. And it was definitely, as I said, it was one of the reasons I moved to Axis, because that rigidity in the setup was the best I've tried, best I've used by far.
Yeah, and it gives you a true feel, like a really stiff true feel that gives you confidence to really push it, because you know what it's going to do. Yeah.
There's no, like, if your mast is flexing and your fuse is flexing and there's too many things, uncontrollable variables. Whereas if everything's stiff and maybe your wing's flexing a little bit, then at least if it's just one variable that's changing, it's controllable. More, you can understand you're going to fall off less in the surf and downwind. It's good. It's nice having a solid base.
The trade-off is, I find, is if my gear's really good, that just means like when I stack, it's only me. So I'm running out of stuff to blame. Yeah, that's it. No excuses. Does anybody have any questions on gear? Or Nick?
I'm just wondering, what is your sort of favorite wing foil setup? You go out to have fun, like I'm going with a bigger foil and a smaller hand wing in the base foil. We rode a lot of base foil here. So I'm wondering what setup you're using for winging that's just sort of having fun, and also with that, how do you stay on foil the longest? So it's sort of like pumping techniques. So you're pretty good at that.
Yeah, so I'll start with the winging. Generally, I try to match my foil to the wave size, because we usually have more waves than we do wind in Sydney. So if it's like a 4-foot swell and the wind's 15 knots, I'd prefer to use like a 6-meter wing and use the 899 to surf the waves more. And sometimes that means takes me longer to get up on foil. But because the main thing I want to do is try to ride the wave, I'd prefer to be floating that little bit longer, that extra minute or so. So I prefer to, but if the wind's super strong, I'm going to use the smallest wing I can and the smallest foil I can. So I had a session not so long ago on the 799 and like a 3-meter wing, and I was maxed out just doing big jumps, which normally I don't do a lot of jumps. I threw straps on, but because it was so windy, I was doing that. Normally I ride without straps and riding waves with normally a wing that feels like it's too big until you're on the wave, and then on the wave you kind of put it behind you and kind of forget about it. You start towing the wing and you're just surfing. It's like whipping yourself into waves. It's a really good feeling. And then what was the other question?
Just your pumping technique. Tips for
pumping technique.
When you got
okay.
Yeah.
Actually, pumping technique. I'm gonna do like a whiteboard thing. This is what I normally do for my Talkback Tuesday.
Yeah.
So
you might have to
basically, if this is our riggedy pumping, the more up and down we do. So this is the nose of our board. If the nose is going up for too long, then you're going to stall out. And if the nose is pushing down too long, you're going to touch down. So it's always a balance. This is our sort of water depth, like this. And so we're obviously can't draw a straight line. Basically the nose up and down, and basically want to minimize the amount of up and down movements. So if you can have your pumping look more like the green line than the maroon line, and I guess the nose of our board, I'll do it a bit differently. If we have the nose, if this is our board, basically the more we lift the nose up, the more height we're going to, the more height we're going to get, but at the cost of speed. So I'm going to kind of draw, this is our water. So the more our nose goes up, the more the foil basically stalls, and basically height comes at the cost of speed. The more our nose goes down, let's draw like this, the more speed we get, because as we push down, we use basically, gravity to push down and create speed. We get like a little downhill to accelerate out of our pump. And obviously, if you just pumped down, you're going to hit the water. And if you just pumped up, you're going to stall out. So it's a balancing act. And so what I was talking about before, and I'll just draw below. So I'm going to do red is, I guess, you see some people pump really sharp and jagged, and there's sort of no flow in our pumping technique, and they go up and then they're down, and then they're up and then they're down, and only lasts 3 or 4 pumps. And then in orange, I'm going to draw sort of the same sort of pump, but a bit more smoothed out. So you can see it's still the similar height, but it's smoother. So basically you're flowing up and then you're flowing down, and you're flowing up and you're flowing down. It's kind of a rhythmic sort of motion. And then the best, most efficient way to pump in green is actually letting the board run more and basically moving the nose of the board less. So basically, instead of the board moving up and down too much, we minimize. So say it was moving up and down this much. We want to minimize, other way around. We want to minimize the amount that the board moves up and down. So basically we're making the board movement in the green line smaller. So you're just going up, down, up, down, up, down, really small and short, sharp movements. This is a general sort of theory, but it definitely holds true. There's more sort of stuff to go through depending on the brand of foil that you're using. For example, Go foil is a really heavy front-footed foil, generally speaking, versus a Lift or an Armstrong high aspect. They're really back-footed foils. So whether you're putting pressure on your front foot or more on your back foot will make a huge difference as to an efficient pumping technique. But the main thing is if you can limit that nose movement from, like if you're doing this up and down a lot, that's a lot of movement, and it's going to mean there's a lot of drag on your mast. Whereas if you can just do tiny little movements and almost keep your board flat throughout your pump, you're holding your height through the water column, and so your mast is moving up and down less. But more importantly, the foil is holding its efficiency for longer. So I guess pumping technique is something that I've literally written almost an entire course on in the surf foil course. I guess that's a bit of a sneak peek.
Definitely why I jumped on for that pumping, because you're really good at refining people's technique. And I kind of look like a musical conductor with epilepsy. It wasn't pretty, but it was kind of effective. But you really have refined it. And the nuances are depending on what foil you're using, bigger foils, bigger cadence, you know, but you're really trying to think how to keep that foil efficient so it's doing the work and you're not burning out cardio wise. So you can link multiple ways. But I think winging is a really good way to learn pump foiling, because you can luff out your wing and then pump around. And then once you start to fade out, you can pull your wing back in. And then, you know, it's not like you have to paddle up or go paddle out, catch another wave like you do sup or prone. So
you can repeat it again and again and again. And actually one of the best things, I guess, advice for people learning to pump is, and pump more efficiently is, especially if it's windy, luff the wing out and continue pumping until failure. So like touch down rather than grabbing the wing too early, because learning to pump and generate your own speed rather than just sort of whipping yourself in with the wing and then pumping while at high speed and then grabbing the wing as soon as you lose that speed again, doesn't teach you the new, like the little tiny fiddly bits that are actually going to show you lots of gains. So like you're better off touching down and having to, you know, get up on foil again, because you're going to learn more and you're going to, I guess it'd be frustrating, but that's the learning process of foiling. And it's a pretty steep curve, but if you put yourself in those positions where you're going to be refining a technique more, you'll improve quicker.
And definitely if you have, say, like one or two, three things to work on when you're out on the water, that definitely helps work. It gives you a focus. So I'm mindful of your time, James. I know you've got heaps of commitments. How are you going for time?
Yeah, I can go like another 5-10.
Yeah, perfect. So for one night only, did I check this? I think I checked with you before that. For everyone that came tonight, we can offer like SHQ 10 for a bit of a discount on your coaching course, which is a monthly subscription. And like, this is the sort of really nuanced advice that you get. So if you're looking to progress in sup, prone, wing, James has put a lot of work into this and can review you doing it. The hard bit I find is actually getting somebody to film you.
The best thing to do is sign up with a mate, and then you can film each other, like bring a GoPro out and literally just film each other one wave. Or, you know, that's easier said than done, but if you've got a good buddy, it's good to sign up together so you can get the footage and you get the most out of it.
Yeah, I've seen my friends. That's good. So yeah, perfect. Thanks, James. Is there anything you want to chat about? I know we've asked you a few questions. Is there anything that you're enjoying or looking forward to in your foiling journeys?
Oh, I'm just loving the whole foiling community. There's so much froth, and as you said earlier on, like people coming from all different types of disciplines, from sailing to surfing to sup to kiting to, you know, and people who've never done any sort of water sports are really attracted to foiling. So I'm loving the whole foil froth that's going on. And when I come down in October, I'm hoping to sort of chat with SHQ and Tom and try to organise a few clinics for winging, or I want to try to grow the sup downwind stuff in Melbourne, because I know you guys get plenty of wind, and the bay sort of allows you to do, you know, sort of a downwinder in any sort of conditions. And obviously the winging, I call winging the gateway drug to downwind foiling, because it's so easy. You got the safety blanket, but taking that next step to doing it with a paddle, or doing the deflate downwinder, which I'm not sure if you haven't looked at that. That's a pretty fun little project I worked on with a mate. That's all awesome ways to get into it, and the deflate is a great way to do it without a car shuttle. So,
definitely. I think too, with the progression of downwind sup foiling, it's looking more achievable. Like if you've gone out, like I've got a bunch of sup foils, and you go out in sort of 15, 20 knots on your surf's up and you're like, well, how am I going to do this? But with the shape of the aviators coming out, the new additions, we've got a few guys that have got boards on order. I think we're going to see a lot more downwinding in the bay, which is very achievable and a perfect bay for it. So I think
for sure.
As it, the ease of foiling evolves, we're going to have more people looking to do that.
Yeah, heaps more accessible. And I'm so excited we're finally getting a downwind sort of production range in, because I've always, like the last 5 years, I've had customs, and like I've always said we should make a range for this, and like no one does it. You're the only one that does it, James. Like no one else is interested in downwind foiling. And I've written a downwind foil course, and I've done podcasts for downwind foiling. I'm trying to get more people into downwind foiling, whether it be winging or prone or sup. And basically this year, finally, there's been enough interest in the downwind foiling that we can warrant a range, and we're pretty excited to release basically we've got 2 ranges come. I think I can share this. We've got a pro and an elite, and they're both, I guess, downwind foiling is sort of that one of the harder things to learn on the sup. But basically the pro is that they're both long and skinny, but the elite is longer and skinnier. So basically, I'm not sure if you guys have seen the Dave Kalama Barracuda.
Definitely,
it's like 7 foot by like, they're like 7'6" or something by 19 wide. We're not quite that extreme, but the elite is more towards the sort of, 6 foot to 20 wide. And then the pro is there's more, I guess, the way we described it is the pro is your first downwind board, and the elite is your second downwind board, because the stability and the skills you need to be able to paddle in a straight line or even stand up on the elite is something a little bit trickier. And so you sort of start with the pro, and if you've already dabbled in a bit of sup or dabbled in a bit of sup downwind or sup foiling, then you might be able to skip the pro and go to the elite. But maybe expect some.
It is definitely challenging, and I definitely find like downwinding with the wing is just that peace of mind and security. But a friend and I have bought a couple of boards, so we're just waiting for them to show up. And once you pay the money, you have to commit to it. But I wasn't going to tell anybody in case I couldn't do it, but yeah, there it is. I'm not sure.
It's recorded too.
Yeah, I know. Damn it. I'm not sure our bay is wide enough for you, James. Like, it's probably, what's the width of the bay across? 75. So you might have to go over on a southerly and back on a northerly or something like that.
Yeah, that's all right. I might do.
Yeah, you'll make it work for sure. So I know you got to wrap this up. The Great Barrier Reef paddle, what sort of distance is that? Is that?
It's a race. So the first weekend there's like a 17-kilometer race inside the reef. And looking at the course, I think the sup foils might want to sort of skip the first 7 Ks because it's a little bit flat.
Right.
I'm happy to start in the flat, but it would be much fun. And if to make it more inclusive, we're probably going to chat to the organisers and try to start when the bumps get a bit better. And then for the second weekend, I guess the first one's the Great Barrier Reef Mini, and the second one's just the Great Barrier Reef Ocean Challenge. And the second one's like 45 Ks. It's kind of like 45, 50 Ks, sort of like Molokai distance, but inside the reef up in Cairns. So it should be.
What a spot.
Never been up. I've never done any. I've been up there as a grommet to the Great Barrier Reef, but I haven't been like doing any of the water sports I do now up there. So I'm excited to suss it all out and enjoy the road trip on the way up.
And definitely with foiling, you can cover a lot of distance quite efficiently. So you can actually hopefully pause and have a look around and enjoy it too. So
hopefully.
Anyone else got any questions for James? No, they're full of pizza, so everyone's quiet and happy.
I got a question for you guys. What sort of pizza are you eating?
We went top shelf and got some Domino's, mate. Nick's got a good thought, is that we need to build an affiliation with Uber and have a few options for Uber, foil.
Seriously?
To pick us up as downwinders, because partners' patients are wearing thin, and a couple of guys jump on the train with a foil board in the rain and get a few looks. But
I've caught the bus here in Sydney on the northern beaches. We don't have trains because I don't know, we're too backwards, but we have the bus. I think it's, what do I catch? The L90, and it's like an express. And so you either drive your car to the start and get the bus back to where your car is, or you drop your car and catch the bus back up. And it's better to drop your car first, because jumping on the bus dripping wet with a dismantled foil in all these different pieces isn't such such a good thing. But luckily at Palm Beach, it's pretty quiet. But
Well,
yeah.
I guess everyone knows you now, but yeah, you're probably not making friends on the bus, are you? Oh, that's good. Well, thanks very much for your time, James. Appreciate it. We really hope that you can get down in October. We'll run a camp, get you in store, and you can show people your skills. If anyone wants to join up, Coach Casey is where you're going to find him, and we'll keep following on Insta. And yeah, keep enjoying it and progressing, mate. It's exciting to watch.
Yeah, no, thanks for inviting me along. It's nice to see so many enthusiastic foilers. Look forward to getting down there in October.
Fantastic, mate. I think foiling's growing so much that I might not share all my secret spots with you, but I'm sure we can figure something out.
Fair enough.
Thank you, mate.
Fair enough.
Thanks,
Catch you
James. Appreciate it. See you.
See you guys.
Bye, mate.